people think that failure comes out of nowhere, that it just something that happens. And there's actually a fear of failure, which fear is irrational, hard to explain to somebody who's fearful that it is irrational, but it is irrational. It's not based on reality, it is based on something past life, maybe this life that you're reminded of and you have a fear of. But it doesn't usually make any sense. Like, I know myself struggling with fears, it's like the fear itself, like when you sit down and you try to work through your fear, it makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, this is not about fear. This is actually about success or failure. Failure is not something that just happens. It doesn't, doesn't like come out of left field and just like wipe everything out and you you don't have it anymore. Failure comes from you. No matter what you're doing. Let's say you are working on an exercise program. You want to get in shape. And you start working out and you start eating healthy and you start feeling really good. And maybe you get 2 months into it and you haven't actually reached your goal, but you quit and you consider it a failure. Well, it wasn't a failure. The only reason it failed is because you quit. Failure doesn't actually exist until you make it exist. And it really doesn't matter what you're talking about. If you don't quit, failure cannot happen. It can't happen. You actually are the catalyst to whatever it is you're trying to succeed at. So, although you may feel like you're afraid that failure exists and it might happen to you, the key is whether or not you accept the failure. If you don't accept the failure, then it doesn't end. Failure doesn't happen. You make failure happen by giving up or quitting whatever it is that you're doing. And you can look at this in many, many different aspects. From business to relationship to work to jobs. Generally, the reason that failure happens or the reason that there is a complete and total breakdown is because we give up. We get to a point where we can't take anymore and we quit. We throw up our hands. We all have a point. We all have a point where we've reached that point and we say, the price is too high, I'm not going any further. The goal is no longer desired. That's probably the biggest key. The goal is no longer desired. The price is too high for me to try and achieve this particular thing. It's a point where you've decided that you don't want to give any more to that situation. You would rather just give less because you feel like you've given too much. You've given, you've given, you've given, you've given, you've worked, you've worked, you've worked. You've done everything that you knew to do, as hard as you knew to do it, and as good as you knew to do it, and you still didn't achieve the success that you thought you should achieve by that point. Keep going. Keep going. Do not stop. Now, you may have to scale back. You may have to slow down. You may have to make adjustments. You may have to make things a little less prominent at the moment. You may have to go back to the drawing board. You may have to temporarily pull back, pull your energy back away from the success of this thing. And you may have to go back to the drawing board and look at it and try to decide what will make it successful. But the only way you fail is if you just stop doing it. You reach a point where you're not willing to put any more energy into this thing to make it successful. And that could be just a communication problem. That could be something that you just had no concept of what it was going to take to make this thing successful. And it doesn't matter if it was a job, or if it was a relationship, or if it was a friendship, or if it was school, or it was your workout program, or whatever it was that you quit. You quit it because you chose something different. You decided that the energy and the effort that you were putting into this thing was more than you were willing to put in. And it was time to stop putting that amount of energy and effort into it. And that is okay. But that means a fear of failure is nothing. I mean, it is nothing. Fear is nothing but heightened emotions and crazy thoughts, negative thoughts. And failure doesn't happen unless you agree that it does happen. If you reach a point where you are at a failure point, you're not failing because you failed. You failed because you gave up before the success began, or you decided that there was too much, it was asking too much of you. You weren't willing to put in any more effort into reaching the success of that project. And that's okay. You can make those decisions. But don't ever think that failure came out of left field and just took you out, because that is not the case. People fight failure every single day and they win. And sometimes people fight so much failure that they win so big and so grand that they are so glad they never gave up. And that is what you need to focus on, I think, most of all, is the fact that the more you resist failure, the more you push forward into success, the more you do to create that success, the better off you're going to be. And the bigger the reward is going to be when you finally do achieve your success. Adjust, make things workable, make things more appealing, Do whatever you have to do, but just keep going. Don't let life or people break you. If somebody has broke you, made you feel like quitting, like giving up, just take a couple days, do some internal searching, do some meditating, think about things, and then get up and kick some butt. And I wish you all the success in the world.